I'm sitting in a beige conference room that smells like burned coffee and anxiety, watching my mother's face drain of color. The bank manager, Mrs. Kowalski, a woman in her mid-50s with steel gray hair and the kind of eyes that have seen every financial horror story imaginable, has just rotated her computer monitor. Slowly, deliberately, the screen swivels on its base with a soft mechanical whisper, and suddenly the numbers I've been looking at are facing my parents instead. My mother's mouth opens. No sound comes out. My father blinks 3 times, fast, like his brain is trying to reboot. The number on the screen reads $1,247,690.34 *. Is this, my mother starts, her voice strangled. This can't be. That's Ms. Chen's current balance with this institution, Mrs. Kowalski says, her tone professionally neutral, but I catch the microscopic twitch at the corner of her mouth. She's enjoying this, just a little. Of course, this doesn't reflect her complete financial portfolio, just what she holds in checking and savings with us. I don't say anything, I just watch them. I've imagined this moment for 3 weeks now, rehearsed it, dreaded it, needed it, and now that it's here, I feel eerily calm. Like I'm floating somewhere near the ceiling, observing my own life from a distance. My father finds his voice first. It comes out harsh, accusatory, like I'm the one who's done something wrong. You've had this the whole time, while we were struggling, while you were committing identity theft, I say quietly. Yes, I had it the whole time. My mother's shock is curdling into something uglier now. Her face flushes red, and her hands grip the arms of her chair like she's physically restraining herself. We are your asterisk parents asterisk, Maya. We raised asterisk you. That money should. Mrs. Kowalski clears her throat, cutting her off with the kind of authority only a bank manager can wield. Mr. and Mrs. Chen, before we continue, I need to inform you that we've completed our internal fraud investigation regarding the loan opened in Ms. Chen's name on November 3rd. The signatures have been verified as falsified. Ms. Chen did not authorize this loan, nor was she aware of it until she received a credit monitoring alert 17 days ago. She pauses, her hand moving to the phone on her desk. Her finger hovers over a button. Ms. Chen filed a police report on November 7th. I've been in communication with the detective assigned to her case, and, she presses the button. She's here now. The door behind my parents opens. Detective Sarah Morris steps in, badge clipped to her belt, expression calm and professional, and I watch the exact moment my parents realize they're not getting out of this. My mother's eyes snap to me, and for just a second I see something I've never seen before. Fear. Then it hardens into pure venom. I will asterisk never forgive you for this, she hisses. I meet her gaze. I don't flinch. I'm counting on it, I say. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You're probably wondering how the hell we got here, how I ended up in a bank conference room, watching my own parents get confronted by police for stealing my identity. How a casual Sunday morning turned into a 3-week unraveling of every lie I'd ever told myself about family. Let me take you back. 3 weeks earlier, I was having the kind of morning that makes you forget, just for a moment, that anything bad exists in the world. It was one of those perfect late October Sundays, the kind where the light comes through your windows at just the right angle, turning everything gold. I was in my condo in Capitol Hill, the one I'd bought 2 years ago after my promotion to senior architect. 1,400 square feet, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist in that intentional way that comes from having enough money to buy less but better. Herman Miller chair at my desk. A Jura espresso machine I'd saved up for. Bookshelves made of reclaimed walnut. I'd just finished a 10-mile run, my Sunday ritual, and I was sitting on my couch in leggings and a soft cotton hoodie, hair still damp from the shower, scrolling through my phone while I waited for my coffee to brew. NPR was playing softly from my speaker. The air smelled like the lavender candle I'd lit an hour earlier. My phone buzzed. A notification from Credit Karma. Alert new account opened asterisk. I frowned. I hadn't opened any new accounts. I just maxed out my Roth IRA contributions for the year 2 weeks ago, and my investment accounts were all on autopilot. I tapped the notification. Personal loan, $34,000. Opened, November 3, 2024. Status, disbursed. Hard inquiry, minus 13 points to credit score. My stomach dropped. I read it again, then again, the words didn't change. $34,000, a loan I didn't take out. My credit score, my beautiful, carefully maintained 812, had just taken a hit. My hands started shaking, but my brain went into the mode it always does when something breaks at work. Systematic, methodical, diagnostic. I opened my laptop and pulled my full credit report from all 3 bureaus. Experian loaded first. There it was, a personal loan from Pacific Trust Bank, opened 4 days ago, already fully disbursed. The billing address listed was 4425 Maple Grove Lane. My parents' house. I stared at that address for a long time, long enough for my coffee machine to finish its cycle and beep at me, ignored, long enough for the candle to gutter and go out. They didn't. They couldn't have. But even as I thought it, I knew. Of course they did. I scrolled down further, and that's when I saw the second thing. A credit card I didn't recognize, Capital Financial Visa, opened 8 months ago. Current balance, $12,183. Status, 60 days past due asterisk. The shaking in my hands spread to my whole body. I pulled up a fresh browser window and started taking screenshots. Every page, every account, every date. I saved them all to a new folder on my desktop and labeled it Evidence, then immediately backed it up to my encrypted cloud drive. Because here's the thing about me. I've been documenting things for a long time. It started 3 years ago after my therapist, the one I'd started seeing when I finally admitted I might have some family stuff to work through, suggested I keep track of financial requests from my parents. Just to see the pattern, she said, just to get some clarity. So I had spreadsheets, Venmo receipts, text message screenshots going back years. I just never thought I'd need them for asterisk this. I sat there on my couch, in my beautiful apartment that I'd earned, surrounded by the life I'd built with my own hands, and felt the floor drop out from under me. Not because of the money. I could pay off $34,000 without blinking. I made just under $500,000 a year in total compensation, salary, stock, bonuses. I had a portfolio worth nearly $3 million if you counted my retirement accounts and the rental property I'd bought in Tacoma. I was, by any objective measure, wealthy. No, the thing that made my hands shake and my vision blur wasn't the dollar amount. It was the betrayal. It was the fact that my own parents, the people who were supposed to protect me, love me, see me as more than a resource to be extracted, had stolen my identity and committed fraud without a second thought. And based on the address, they hadn't even tried to hide it. I need you to understand something about my family before we go any further. I need you to understand how I got here, not just to this couch, holding evidence of a crime, but to the entire dynamic that made this possible in the first place. I was always the responsible one. That's not me being self-aggrandizing. It's just a fact, the same way it's a fact that water flows downhill. In my family, there were 2 children and 2 very different sets of rules. There was me, Maya the oldest, born when my parents were young and still struggling. I got the childhood of thrift stores and generic cereal, of being told we couldn't afford school trips or yearbooks, of learning very early that asking for things made my mother's mouth go tight with stress. I learned to be small, to need little, to make myself easy. Then there was Ethan, my younger brother, born 3 years later when my dad's contracting business started doing better. Ethan got the childhood of hockey leagues and name-brand sneakers, of his own car at 16, of college application fees paid without a blink. Ethan was charming and loud and magnetic, and my parents orbited around him like he was the sun. I don't think they did it consciously. I don't think they woke up one day and decided, let's give Maya nothing and Ethan everything. It was more insidious than that. It was just assumed. Maya doesn't need help. Maya is fine. Maya is asterisk capable asterisk. And I was. I made myself capable because that was the only way to survive. I got straight A's, full scholarship to University of Washington. I worked 20 hours a week from age 16 onward, coffee shops, tutoring, whatever I could fit around school, because my parents couldn't help with my expenses, and I believed them. I saw the stress on my mother's face when bills came. I saw my dad working long hours. I didn't want to be a burden. Meanwhile, Ethan coasted through high school with C's and a hockey trophy, got into a private college on my parents' dime, and dropped out after 2 years to pursue entrepreneurship. I graduated summa cum laude with a degree in computer science, got hired by Amazon as a software engineer, and moved into a tiny studio in Seattle that cost half my salary. That's when the ask started. It was small at first. My dad's truck needed a repair, $500. Could I help out just this once? I sent the money the same day. Of course I did. They were my parents. They'd raised me. This was what you did for family. Then it was property taxes, $200. Then Ethan's first business, a food truck that folded in 4 months, $5,000 to help with startup costs. Then the roof. Then the furnace. Then Ethan's second business, a crypto consulting firm that never consulted anyone. Then a loan to help them buy a boat asterisk, because my dad had always dreamed of fishing in retirement. Every time it was an emergency. Every time I was the only one who could help. Every time there was the unspoken threat. If you say no, you're selfish. You're a bad daughter. You're forgetting where you came from. And every time I said yes. Over 8 years, I gave them $90,000. Not loaned, gave asterisk, because it was never paid back. There were always reasons. Business was slow, unexpected expenses. We'll get you next month. And then next month never came, and bringing it up made asterisk me the asshole. I kept working, kept getting promoted, made senior engineer, then staff, then moved to a startup that got acquired, and finally landed at my current position. Senior software architect at a FAANG company, leading a team of 12, total compensation package just under $485K. I was 32 years old, and I had more money than I'd ever imagined. And my family saw me as an ATM with a heartbeat. I didn't see it that way, not for a long time. I told myself I was helping. I told myself this was love, that this was what family meant. Sacrifice, generosity, showing up. It wasn't until my therapist, Dr. Rouso, a kind woman in her 60s who listened to my stories with increasingly concerned eyebrows, asked me a very simple question that I started to crack. Maya, she said, when was the last time they asked you how you asterisk were doing? Not your job, not your money, you. I opened my mouth to answer. I couldn't. She suggested I start keeping track. Not to be petty, she said, but to get clarity, to see the pattern from the outside. So I did. I made a spreadsheet, date, amount, purpose, repayment status. The numbers didn't lie. $87,450 over 7 years at that point. Not a single dollar returned. And the requests kept coming. But I still sent the money, because I didn't know how to stop, because the guilt was overwhelming, because I kept thinking, maybe this time will be the last time. Maybe this time they'll see me as more than a wallet. I was still hopping, right up until the moment I saw that credit alert, that I was wrong about them. Now I knew better. Now I was staring at evidence that they hadn't just asked, they'd taken asterisk, without permission, without guilt. And they'd done it assuming I'd never fight back. They were wrong. I stared at that address, my parents' house, for 2 hours. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there while my coffee went cold and the sunlight moved across my floor, trying to reconcile the people I wanted my parents to be with the people who would do this. Finally, I picked up my phone. My hands were steady now. That initial shock had burned off and left something else behind, something colder, clearer. I unblocked my mother's number and called. She answered on the second ring, her voice bright and performative. Maya, sweetie, what a nice surprise. We haven't heard from you in weeks. The guilt trip opener. Classic. I didn't take the bait. Mom, I said, keeping my voice level, did you open a loan in my name? The silence that followed lasted maybe 3 seconds, but it felt like falling down a well. What? A loan? Honey, why would you? Where is this coming from? Her voice had gone up half an octave, taking on that wounded, confused tone she used when she wanted to make me feel like I was being unreasonable. I got a credit alert, I said. A $34,000 personal loan was opened in my name 4 days ago. The billing address is your house. Another pause. I heard her breathing, heard something clatter in the background, a dish maybe. Then her voice changed, not to admission, to a different kind of defense. Oh, that, sweetie, we were going to tell you. My stomach turned over. We had an emergency, she continued, words coming faster now. The roof. There's water damage and the insurance won't cover it, and we needed to act fast before it got worse. You know how your father is about these things. He can't just let the house fall apart. So you committed fraud, I said. Fraud? Maya, don't be dramatic. You're our daughter. We knew you'd want to help, but you've been so distant lately, always busy with work, and we didn't want to bother you. We're going to pay it back, obviously. It's not like... You stole my identity and took out a loan without my permission, I said, each word sharp and separate. That's identity theft. That's a felony. For God's sake, Maya, we're your parents. Her voice hardened, the wounded act dropping away. We raised you. We put a roof over your head for 18 years. You wouldn't even have that fancy job if we hadn't. I had a full scholarship, I said quietly. I paid my own rent. I bought my own books. You didn't contribute a single dollar to my education. We gave you a home. That was the legal minimum. That's what you're supposed to do when you choose to have children. I heard her sharp intake of breath, then muffled voices. She'd covered the phone, but I could still hear her hissing to someone, my dad. A moment later, he was on the line. Maya, his voice was harder than my mother's, stripped of pretense. What's this about a police report? I hadn't mentioned a police report, which meant they'd already been contacted, or they'd already been planning their defense. I want to hear you say it, I said. Did you open a loan in my name without asking me? We had an emergency, he said flatly. We're handling it. We'll make the payments. There's no reason to get lawyers and banks involved. You already got them involved when you forged my signature. We're your parents' Maya. You owe us. Or did you forget that while you were sitting in your expensive condo that we'll never be able to afford? And there it was, the resentment that had always been humming underneath everything. Not pride in what I'd accomplished, bitterness that I'd accomplished it at all. How much have I given you? I asked. Over the years, how much? He didn't answer. $90,000, I said. I have records, every Venmo, every check. $90,000 that you never paid back, and it wasn't enough. You wanted more, so you just took it. That's what family does, he snapped. They help each other. They don't threaten their own parents with. There's also a credit card, I said, reading from my screen. Capital Financial, opened in March. $12,000 charged and 60 days past due. Did you open that one too? Silence. We're done here, I said. Maya, don't you dare. I hung up. My hands were shaking again, but not from fear, from adrenaline, from the horrible, clarifying rage of having my worst suspicions confirmed. They didn't think they'd done anything wrong. They thought they were entitled to this. I blocked both their numbers and sat there in the gathering dark, staring at nothing. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in my bed, the expensive one with the memory foam mattress and the organic cotton sheets, the one I'd bought because I could, because I'd earned it, and stared at the ceiling while my mind ran in circles. I had a choice in front of me, and I understood very clearly what each path meant. Path 1, I could let this go, pay off the loan myself, take the credit hit, file the fraud paperwork quietly, maybe, to get it off my record but not push for criminal charges. I could be the bigger person. I could preserve the relationship, or at least the appearance of one. Christmas dinners would still happen. I wouldn't become the villain in the family story. I could set myself on fire to keep them warm. Again. Path 2, I could fight back. I could file a police report, a real one, not just a credit dispute. I could pursue criminal charges. I could let my parents face actual legal consequences for what they'd done. I could protect myself and my future, even if it meant blowing up every family relationship I had. I thought about my mother's voice on the phone, the way she'd pivoted so quickly from denial to minimization to justification. We were going to tell you. We knew you'd want to help. We'll pay it back. All lies. Or maybe she believed them. Maybe she'd told herself the story so many times that she couldn't see the truth anymore. I thought about my father's bitterness. You owe us. As if the roof and food they'd provided when I was a child, when I was legally their responsibility, was a debt I'd be paying off forever. I thought about Ethan, who'd gotten everything and contributed nothing, who'd probably benefited from this loan the same way he'd benefited from all the others. Who would learn from this that actions don't have consequences, that family means an unlimited safety net, that some people exist to give while others exist to take? I thought about the younger women on my team at work, the bright, talented engineers I mentored. If one of them came to me with this story, if one of them told me her parents had stolen her identity and committed fraud, what would I tell her to do? The answer was obvious. I'd tell her to protect herself. I'd tell her that love doesn't require self-destruction. I'd tell her that she deserves better and that letting someone hurt you over and over again isn't loyalty. It's just letting them hurt you over and over again. I'd tell her that family shouldn't be a weapon used to keep you compliant. Somewhere around 3 a.m, I got up and opened my laptop. I composed an email to the attorney my friend Julia had recommended, a woman named Rachel Yee who specialized in family law and financial fraud. Julia had used her during her own divorce and said she was brilliant, ruthless, and worth every penny. Subject: identity theft by family members. I didn't write much, just the facts: who, what, when, how much. I attached the screenshots and credit reports. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then I opened a note on my phone and started writing down everything I could remember. Every loan, every emergency, every guilt trip. Dates, amounts, contexts. Things I'd tried to forget because remembering them hurt too much. By the time the sun came up, I had 4 single-spaced pages. I showered, made coffee, put on my work clothes, slim black trousers, a silk blouse, the blazer that made me feel like I could handle anything. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. She looked tired, she looked sad, but she also looked done. No more, I thought, never again. Rachel Yee called me back within 6 hours. I read your email, she said, her voice brisk and focused. I'm so sorry this happened to you. Can you come in tomorrow? I have a 3 o'clock opening. Her office was in a high-rise downtown, all glass and clean lines. She was younger than I expected, maybe late 30s, with sharp dark eyes and an even sharper suit. She shook my hand firmly and gestured me to a leather chair across from her desk. Talk me through it, she said, everything. So I did. I told her about the loan, the credit card, the phone call, the 8 years of helping that was really just slow-motion financial exploitation. I pulled up my spreadsheet and showed her the numbers, $90,000 over 8 years. She took notes, her expression neutral but focused. When I finished, she sat back and steepled her fingers. Okay, she said. First, the legal reality. What your parents did is textbook identity theft and fraud. In this state, that's a Class C felony, punishable by up to 5 years in prison and fines up to $10,000. You have a clear criminal case and a civil case. My stomach clenched. Hearing it spelled out like that, prison, felonies, made it real in a way it hadn't been before. Second, Rachel continued, the practical reality. About 60% of identity theft cases involve family members. It's incredibly common and it's incredibly underreported because victims feel guilty or conflicted about pressing charges. But here's what I need you to understand. This isn't a family matter. This is a crime. They didn't borrow your sweater without asking. They stole your identity and damaged your credit. They made you liable for debt you didn't agree to. That's not a misunderstanding. That's fraud. I nodded slowly. Third, she said, leaning forward, I need you to be very sure about what you want to do here. If we pursue criminal charges, your relationship with your parents is over. Not strained. Over. They'll hate you for this. Your extended family will probably take their side. You'll be painted as the villain, the ungrateful daughter who put her own parents in jail. It's going to be brutal, and you need to be prepared for that. What happens if I don't press charges? I asked. You file fraud affidavits with the credit bureaus and the lenders. Get the accounts removed from your credit report and walk away. The creditors might go after your parents civilly, but there's no criminal consequence. Your parents learn that they can do this to you without real repercussions. And my brother learns the same thing, I said quietly. Probably, Rachel agreed. I thought about Ethan showing up at my apartment in 10 years with another failed business, another emergency. I thought about my parents doing this again, if not to me, then to someone else. I thought about the rest of my life, spent managing their crises and their entitlement. I thought about the woman I'd been that morning, writing out her boundaries in the dark. I want to pursue charges, I said. Rachel studied me for a long moment. You're sure? I'm sure. Okay, she said, and I heard the shift in her tone from counselor to strategist. Then here's what we're going to do. She pulled out a legal pad and started writing. Step 1, you file a police report for identity theft. Bring all your documentation, credit reports, loan statements, everything. Ask for a copy of the report and a case number. Step 2, you file fraud affidavits with the 3 credit bureaus and with the lenders. This establishes a paper trail and starts the process of removing the fraudulent accounts from your credit. Step 3, you freeze your credit with all 3 bureaus so they can't open anything else. I was taking notes on my phone, fingers flying. Step 4, Rachel continued, and this is the important one, we set a trap. I looked up. A trap. Your parents don't think they did anything wrong, she said. They think they can fix this. Charm you, guilt you, manipulate you into making this go away. We're going to use that against them. She explained the plan. I would contact the bank where the loan was opened and request a meeting to discuss repayment options. I'd imply, without quite saying, that I might be willing to take on the debt. That would get my parents to agree to come in. Meanwhile, Rachel would coordinate with the detective assigned to my case. We'd have the meeting in a controlled environment, with witnesses, with documentation, with law enforcement standing by. We get them on record, Rachel said. We get them to admit what they did in front of bank officials, and then the detective comes in. That feels, I hesitated, manipulative. It's strategic, Rachel corrected. They manipulated you for years. They committed a crime. This isn't entrapment, it's just giving them enough rope to hang themselves. She paused. But if you're not comfortable with it, we can pursue this other ways. It's your call. I thought about my mother's voice on the phone. We were going to tell you. I thought about my father's. You owe us. Let's do it, I said. Over the next 4 days, I became a forensic investigator of my own life. I pulled my credit reports from all 3 bureaus, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, and combed through them line by line. The fraudulent loan was there on all 3, a ugly black mark that had dropped my score from 825 to 812. But the credit card, the Capital Financial Visa, was worse. It had been opened 8 months ago in March, maxed out almost immediately, and was now 60 days delinquent. That's what had really tanked my score. I called both lenders and requested full documentation, copies of the applications, signatures, dates. The loan officer at Pacific Trust was sympathetic. She said she'd seen this before, family members stealing from their own kids, and it made her sick every time. She sent me everything within 24 hours. When I opened the PDFs, I felt my skin crawl. The signature on the loan application was supposed to be mine. It wasn't even close. Someone, probably my mother, based on the loopy handwriting, had just scrawled something vaguely M-shaped and called it good. The employment information listed my old job from 3 years ago. The income listed was $78,000, less than a fifth of what I actually made. They hadn't even tried to make it convincing. I saved everything to my encrypted drive, backed it up twice. Then I started digging through my own bank records, looking for patterns. I found them. 2 years ago, my mother had deposited a check into my account, $200, with a memo that said paying you back. I'd barely noticed it at the time. $200 was nothing to me. But now I saw it for what it was, establishing a pattern. Creating a paper trail that could suggest I was involved in their finances, that we had some kind of shared arrangement. There was another deposit 8 months ago, $150, right around the time the credit card was opened. I felt sick. I pulled my Venmo history and exported it to a spreadsheet. Every transaction with my parents going back 6 years. I categorized them. Emergency roof repair that apparently hadn't been repaired since they'd just taken out a loan for the same thing. Car repairs, property taxes, loans to Ethan, medical bills, holiday gifts for relatives I'd never met. The total came to $1,240. Not a single transaction going the other direction. Not one. I met with Rachel again on Thursday. She reviewed everything I'd found with the focus of a surgeon. "This is perfect," she said. "Documentation, pattern of financial abuse, clear evidence of fraud. The DA is going to love this case." The DA. My voice came out smaller than I intended. "Identity theft is a prosecutable offense," Rachel said gently. "Once you file the police report, it's not really up to you whether charges get filed. The state decides. But with evidence this clear, they'll almost certainly move forward." I nodded. My hands were shaking again. Rachel reached across her desk and put her hand over mine. It was the first non-professional gesture she'd made, and it almost broke me. "You're doing the right thing," she said quietly. "I know it doesn't feel like it, but you are." That afternoon, I went to the police station. The officer who took my report was a middle-aged woman named Officer Delgado with tired eyes and a kind voice. She listened to everything, reviewed my documentation, and shook her head. "I'm sorry this happened to you," she said. "We see this more and more, parents, grandparents stealing from their own kids. It's awful." She handed me a case number on a slip of paper. "A detective will be in touch within a week. Keep all your documentation, don't contact your parents, and freeze your credit if you haven't already." "I will," I said. As I walked out of the station, holding that slip of paper with my case number, I felt something shift inside me. This was real now. There was no going back. I got in my car, drove home, and for the first time in 3 weeks, I cried. Detective Sarah Morris called me 2 days later. Her voice was steady and professional, but there was warmth underneath it, the kind that comes from someone who's seen too much but hasn't let it make her cynical. "Ms. Chen, I've reviewed your case file and all the documentation you submitted. I want you to know that this is one of the most well-documented cases of familial identity theft I've seen. You've done excellent work here." "Thank you," I said, though it felt strange to be praised for documenting my own victimization. "I've spoken with your attorney, Ms. Yi, and she's outlined a proposed course of action involving a meeting at the bank. I think it's a smart strategy. If your parents make admissions in front of institutional witnesses, it strengthens the case significantly. Are you comfortable moving forward with that?" I sat down on my couch, looking out at the city. It was raining, the kind of November rain that turns Seattle gray and soft. "Yes," I said, "I'm comfortable." "Good, I'll coordinate with the bank. Plan on me being present but out of sight initially. If and when admissions are made, I'll step in. In the meantime, do not contact your parents directly. Let them think the meeting is exactly what it appears to be, a chance to resolve this quietly." After we hung up, I called Pacific Trust Bank and asked to speak with someone in the fraud department. I was transferred 3 times before I reached the right person, a manager named Mrs. Kowalski. Her voice was crisp and no nonsense. "Ms. Chen, I've been expecting your call. Detective Morris briefed me on the situation. I'm very sorry you're dealing with this. Thank you, I said. I understand we're trying to arrange a meeting. Yes, I've reviewed the loan file, and frankly, the signatures don't match our records for you. This should never have been approved in the first place. We failed you there, and I apologize. What we'd like to do is have you come in with the individuals who applied for the loan to discuss resolution. Are they aware of the meeting? Not yet, I said. I'll need to contact them. I see. There was a pause, and I could almost hear her putting the pieces together. Ms. Chen, just so I'm clear on the situation, are the individuals who fraudulently opened this loan your parents? Yes. Another pause, longer this time. When she spoke again, her voice had softened just slightly. I'm very sorry. That's particularly difficult. I want you to know that we'll handle this with discretion and professionalism, and we'll have security present just in case. Thank you, I said and meant it. One more thing, Mrs. Kowalski said. Do you bank with us? I do, actually. I opened a savings account with you about 6 months ago. I'd been diversifying my cash holdings, spreading money across multiple institutions for security. Pacific Trust had good rates and even better online infrastructure. May I ask approximately how much you hold with us? I told her. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. I see. And your parents, do they have any idea of your actual financial situation? No, I said. They think I'm still struggling. They think I'm the same 24-year-old who couldn't afford to fix her car. Well, Mrs. Kowalski said, and I heard the hint of something fierce in her voice. I think we can use that. The plan came together, with the precision of a software deployment. Rachel filed the formal fraud affidavits with all 3 credit bureaus. I froze my credit with Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, something I should have done years ago, but had never thought I'd need protection from my own family. I submitted disputes to both Pacific Trust and Capital Financial, formally disavowing any knowledge of or responsibility for the fraudulent accounts. And then I did something that felt almost theatrical, but that Rachel insisted was strategically sound. I moved money. I had my wealth spread across multiple accounts for diversification and security. High-yield savings at Ally, my primary checking at a local credit union, brokerage accounts at Vanguard and Fidelity, a money market fund, my 401k, my rental property equity. Under normal circumstances, I kept maybe $15,000 in my Pacific Trust savings account, just enough to maintain the relationship and take advantage of their interest rate. But these weren't normal circumstances. I transferred $800,000 from my Vanguard money market fund into my Pacific Trust savings account. Then I moved another $400,000 from my Ally account. I consolidated everything into one place, temporarily, so that the number on the screen would tell the full story. $1,247,690.34. Every dollar I'd saved, every stock grant that had vested, every bonus I'd invested instead of spent. Proof of every choice I'd made while my family was calling me selfish for not giving them more. Rachel had been right. They needed to see it. I also started preparing myself emotionally, which was harder than any of the logistics. I saw Dr. Rousseau twice that week instead of our usual once. We talked about grief, how you can grieve people who are still alive when you realize they're never going to be who you needed them to be. We talked about guilt and how it had been weaponized against me my whole life. We talked about the difference between cruelty and boundaries. You're not doing this asterisk to them, she reminded me in our Wednesday session. You're doing this asterisk for asterisk you. They made the choice to commit fraud. You're making the choice to protect yourself. Those are very different things. It doesn't feel different, I said. My throat was tight. It feels like I'm destroying my family. Your family destroyed itself, she said gently. You're just refusing to pretend it didn't happen. At night, I journaled. Pages and pages of everything I was feeling. The anger, the grief, the fear of what came next. I wrote letters I'd never send. I wrote lists of every time I'd compromised myself to keep the peace. I I wrote down the things I wished I could say to my mother, my father, my brother. And I wrote down what I knew to be true, even when it hurt. I deserved better than this. I always had. The meeting was scheduled for the following Tuesday at 2:00 p.m. I sent my parents a carefully worded text from a new Google Voice number, since I'd blocked their real numbers. This is Maya. I'm willing to meet with you and the bank to discuss the loan situation. Tuesday, Nov 28, 2 p.m. at Pacific Trust Downtown Branch. Please confirm you'll be there. My mother's response came within minutes. Of course, sweetie. We'll be there. We can fix this. Love you. I stared at that love you for a long time. Then I forwarded the screenshot to Rachel and deleted the message. Ethan showed up at my apartment, building 6 days before the scheduled meeting. I was coming back from a run, my way of managing the anxiety that was humming under my skin constantly now, when the front desk attendant stopped me. Ms. Chen, there's someone here asking for you, your brother. My stomach dropped. Tell him I'm not available. I tried that. He's been here for 20 minutes. He's getting insistent. I could have gone up the back elevator. Should have, probably, but something in me was done hiding. I pulled out my phone and opened the voice memo app, hit record, and slipped it into my jacket pocket with the microphone facing out. Rachel had told me to document everything, and Washington was a two-party consent state for recordings, but I was willing to risk the legal gray area. I just needed evidence for myself, if nothing else. I walked into the lobby. Ethan was standing by the windows, his back to me, and for a second I saw him the way a stranger would. Tall, athletic build, expensive sneakers, and a Canada Goose jacket I knew cost $900. He looked successful. He looked like someone who had his life together. The illusion shattered the second he turned around. His face was red, his jaw tight, and when he saw me, his expression twisted into something ugly. "Are you fucking kidding me?" he said, loud enough that the desk attendant looked up in alarm. "You filed a police report against Mom and Dad." I kept my voice level. "Hello, Ethan." "Don't hello, Ethan me like we're having a normal conversation. What the fuck is wrong with you?" "Did you know about the loan?" I asked. He blinked. "What?" "The loan they took out in my name. Did you know about it?" "What does it asterisk matter if I knew? They're our parents, Maya. They made a mistake. They'll pay it back. There's no reason to get the fucking police involved." "They committed identity theft," I said. "That's a felony." "Oh my God, listen to yourself." He took a step closer, and I fought the urge to step back. "They raised us. They fed us. They put a roof over our heads. They had an emergency and they needed help, and instead of being a decent human being, you're trying to put them in asterisk jail." "Did you get any of the money?" I asked. His expression flickered, just for a second, but I saw it. Guilt, defensiveness. "What?" "The $34,000. Did any of it go to your crypto business?" "That's none of your, this isn't about me." "It's always about you," I said quietly. "Every loan, every emergency, every time they've come to me for money, it's been to bail you out. How much, Ethan? How much of the $90,000 I gave them over the years actually went to you?" "You gave them that money," he snapped. "You don't get to hold it over their heads now." "I gave it because they lied about needing it. I gave it because they made me feel like I owed them. I gave it because I thought that's what family meant." "That is what family means." His voice bounced off the marble floors. "Family helps each other. Family doesn't call the cops when someone makes a mistake. Jesus Christ, Maya, you make, what, $500,000 a year, and you can't help out your own parents." And there it was, the thing that had been lurking under every conversation, every request, every guilt trip. They knew. Maybe not the exact number, but they knew I was successful. They knew I had money, and they thought that meant it was theirs. "I'm done being the family ATM, I said. "You're a selfish bitch," he spat. "You know that. You've always been so fucking superior, acting like you're better than us because you got some fancy tech job. But you're just cold. You're just a selfish, cold bitch who cares more about money than her own family." The desk attendant was on the phone now, probably calling security. I should have felt scared, intimidated. Instead, I felt calm. "I loved you," I said. "All of you. I gave you everything I had, and it was never enough. You didn't want a daughter or a sister. You wanted a wallet, and I'm done." "We're done when I say we're done," Ethan said, but his voice had lost some of its heat. He was bluffing now, trying to reassert control he'd never actually had. "No," I said. "We're done now. Don't contact me again. If you do, I'll consider it harassment and add it to my evidence file." "Your evidence file? You're actually," he laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "You really are going through with this?" "Yes." "They're going to hate you forever, you know that, right? The whole family. Everyone's going to know what you did." "Good," I said. "Let them know. Let them know I protected myself when my own family tried to destroy my credit and steal my identity. Let them know that actions have consequences. Maybe it'll be educational." I turned toward the elevator. "Maya." "Goodbye, Ethan." I walked away from my brother for the last time, my hand still on the phone recording in my pocket. When I got up to my apartment, I locked the door behind me, stopped the recording, and immediately forwarded it to Rachel with a note. My brother showed up. He knew about the loan. Possible he was the end recipient of the money. Then I sat on my couch and shook for 20 minutes. Not from fear, from relief. I'd stood up to him. I hadn't caved, hadn't apologized, hadn't let him make me feel small. It felt like learning to breathe, after a lifetime of holding my breath. The last 3 days before the bank meeting were when things got truly ugly. My phone, the one with my real number that I still hadn't changed, became a weapon. My mother's texts started coming in the middle of the night. Dozens of them, long, rambling paragraphs that oscillated wildly between rage and maudlin guilt. "How dare you? How dare you involve the police? I am your mother. I gave birth to you. I would never do this to my mother, never. Please, sweetie, can we just talk? I love you so much. You're my daughter. We can work this out. Don't do this to our family. You've always been so cold, so distant. I tried so hard with you and you just pushed me away. And now this is how you repay me. I'm your mother, Maya. I'm your mother. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" I didn't respond. I took screenshots of every single one and forwarded them to Rachel in batch emails with timestamps. My father's messages were shorter, harder. "You're making a mistake. This will destroy our family. You'll regret this." Then my extended family got involved. Aunt Caroline, who I hadn't spoken to in 3 years, sent me a Facebook message. "Maya, honey, I heard about the misunderstanding with your parents. I'm sure you're just upset and not thinking clearly. They love you so much. Please don't do anything you'll regret. Family is forever." Uncle Jim sent an email to my work address, which meant they'd been digging for contact information. "Very disappointed to hear how you're treating your mother and father. They sacrificed everything for you kids. This is a shameful way to repay them. You should be ashamed." A second cousin I'd met maybe twice in my life commented on an Instagram post from 8 months ago. Asterisk praying for your heart to soften toward your parents, folded asterisk. The flying monkeys had been deployed. I didn't respond to any of them, but I screenshot everything, messages, emails, social media comments, and sent it all to Rachel. She called me after the second batch. "This is good, actually," she said. "I know it doesn't feel good, but this is evidence of a coordinated harassment campaign. It shows pattern and intent. If they're trying this hard to get you to back down, it's because they know they're in serious trouble." "It feels like I'm the villain," I said. My voice sounded tired even to my own ears. "Like I'm the one doing something wrong." "That's what they want you to feel," Rachel said. "That's how this works. They make you the bad guy for having boundaries. But listen to me, you are not the villain in this story. You are the victim of a crime who's choosing to pursue justice. That's not wrong, that's brave." I wanted to believe her. Mostly, I just felt exhausted. On Sunday night, the night before the meeting, I made myself dinner. Pasta with garlic and olive oil, a glass of good red wine, a salad with ingredients from the farmer's market. I ate slowly, deliberately, trying to stay present in my body instead of spiraling into anxiety about tomorrow. After dinner, I opened my journal and wrote a letter to my future self. Dear Maya asterisk, by the time you read this again, it will be over. The meeting will have happened. You'll know how it went. You'll be living in whatever comes after. I don't know what that looks like yet. I don't know if I'll feel relieved or devastated or some complicated mixture of both. I don't know if I made the right choice. But I know I made the only choice I could live with. I know that I'm not responsible for their decisions. I'm only responsible for my own boundaries. I know that I deserve to be safe from people who would hurt me, even if those people are my family. I know that no is a complete sentence. I know that I am enough, exactly as I am, and that my worth has never been tied to my usefulness. Tomorrow is going to be hard, maybe the hardest thing you've ever done, but you can do hard things. You've been doing hard things your whole life. The difference is that this time, you're doing a hard thing for yourself, not for someone else. Be brave, be kind to yourself, and remember, you are not alone. Love. Meyer asterisk. I closed the journal and sat in the quiet of my apartment, listening to the rain against the windows. Tomorrow, I would face my parents in that bank conference room. Tomorrow, the trap would spring. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, I was okay. Tonight, I was ready. Tuesday arrived cold and clear. I woke up at 6, even though the meeting wasn't until 2. I couldn't sleep anymore, so I got up and went through my morning routine with extra care, like I was preparing for battle, which I supposed I was. I showered, washed my hair, and dried it smooth. Did my makeup with precision, foundation, concealer, a subtle eye, professional lipstick. I dressed in what I thought of as my armor, tailored black trousers, a silk blouse in deep blue, my best blazer, simple jewelry, my nicest heels. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked composed, successful, unshakable. I needed her to be all those things. I got to the Pacific Trust downtown branch at 1:45 p.m. Mrs. Kowalski met me in the lobby, a woman in her mid-50s with steel gray hair cut in a sharp bob, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my first car. Her handshake was firm, her eyes sharp and assessing. Ms. Chen, thank you for coming early. Detective Morris is already here. She's in my office. Your attorney. She's parking, I said. She'll be here any moment. Rachel arrived 3 minutes later, crisp and professional in a charcoal suit, carrying a leather portfolio. She shook Mrs. Kowalski's hand, then turned to me. How are you holding up? I'm okay, I said, and was surprised to find it was mostly true. Mrs. Kowalski led us through the main floor to a hallway of private offices and conference rooms. We passed the room where the meeting would take place, a medium-sized space with a table, chairs, and a large window overlooking the street. Bland and professional. The kind of room where 1,000 difficult conversations had happened. In Mrs. Kowalski's office, Detective Morris stood as we entered. She was exactly as I'd pictured from her voice on the phone, middle-aged, with kind eyes and an air of competent authority. She wore slacks and a blazer with her badge clipped to her belt. Ms. Chen, she said, shaking my hand, are you ready? Yes. Good, here's how this will work. You, your parents, Ms. Kowalski, and your attorney will be in the conference room. I'll be in here with the door cracked so I can hear. Let the conversation unfold naturally. If they make admissions, and based on the text messages and voicemails they've left you, I think they will, I'll step in. Don't force it. Just let them talk. What if they don't admit anything? I asked. Then we proceed with the criminal case based on the evidence we already have, which is substantial, Detective Morris said. But in my experience, people who don't think they've done anything wrong are usually very eager to explain themselves, especially to family. Rachel put a hand on my shoulder. You don't have to perform. You don't have to argue with them or convince them of anything. Just be present and let the process work. I nodded. At 1:58, Mrs. Kowalski's phone buzzed. Your parents are here, My heart kicked hard against my ribs. "Showtime," Rachel murmured. We walked to the conference room. Mrs. Kowalski went in first, then Rachel, then me. My parents were already seated on the far side of the table. My mother was wearing what I thought of as her church outfit, a floral dress with a cardigan, pearls, her hair freshly done. She was performing respectability, performing good mother. When she saw me, her face arranged itself into an expression of wounded hope. My father sat beside her in slacks and a button-down, his arms crossed, his jaw tight. He looked at me with barely concealed anger. I sat down across from them. Rachel sat beside me. Mrs. Kowalski took the head of the table. "Thank you both for coming," Mrs. Kowalski began. "As you know, we're here to discuss the personal loan that was opened on November 3rd in Ms. Chen's name. I've reviewed the account, and there are some significant discrepancies I need to address." My mother leaned forward, her hands clasped on the table. "Mrs. Kowalski, I want to start by saying that this is all a terrible misunderstanding. Maya is our daughter, and we have a complicated financial arrangement that she might not have fully communicated to you." I felt Rachel's hand briefly touch my knee under the table. Let her talk. "What kind of arrangement?" Mrs. Kowalski asked, her tone neutral. "Well, Maya has been helping us financially for years," my mother said. "She's very successful, she makes a lot of money, and she's always been so generous with us. We've had some struggles, and she's helped us through them. This loan was just an extension of that. We were going to tell her, but there was an emergency with the roof, and we knew she'd want us to handle it, so we did. By forging her signature and opening a loan in her name without her knowledge or consent," Mrs. Kowalski said. My father's voice cut in hard. "We're her parents' asterisk. We have every right to." "You have no right to commit identity theft," Rachel said quietly, "which is what this is." My father's face reddened. "This is a family matter. We shouldn't even be having this conversation with strangers. Maya," he turned to me, tell them that you help us, that this is normal for our family." I looked at him. At the entitlement in his expression, the absolute certainty that I would cave, that I would protect them the way I always had. "I didn't authorize this loan," I said. My voice was calm, steady. "I didn't sign anything. I didn't give you permission to use my name or my credit." "But you would have helped if we'd asked," my mother insisted, her voice rising slightly. "You always help, so really what's the difference?" "The difference is consent," I said. "The difference is that you stole my identity." "Stole asterisk Maya, don't be so dramatic. We're asterisk family asterisk." "You also opened a credit card in my name," I said. "In March, $12,000, 60 days past due. Did you open that one too?" My mother's mouth opened, closed. She looked at my father. "We had expenses," he said, his voice clipped. "Ethan needed, we had to help him. You know how expensive it is to start a business. We would have paid it back." "With what money?" I asked. "You've never paid back a single dollar of the $90,000 I gave you over 8 years. "We raised you," my mother said, and now her voice was shaking, the mask slipping. "We fed you and clothed you and gave you a home for 18 years. You owe us. You wouldn't even exist asterisk without us, and you have all this money, all this success, and you can't even help your own parents without threatening us with police and lawyers." "You committed fraud," I said. "I'm not threatening you with anything. I'm protecting myself from a crime you committed." My father stood up suddenly, his chair scraping back. "This is bullshit. You've always been selfish, Maya. Always thought you were better than us because you got some fancy degree. But you're our daughter, and that means something. That money you have, you wouldn't have it without us. Without the foundation we gave you. So yeah, maybe we took out a loan in your name, but you owe asterisk us." "I owe you nothing," I said. The words hung in the air. My mother's face crumpled. "How can you say that, after everything we've done?" "You didn't do anything except the legal minimum," I said. "And then you spent the rest of my life making me pay you back for it." Mrs. Kowalski cleared her throat. "Mr. and Mrs. Chen, I need to clarify something. When you say you took out a loan in your daughter's name, are you admitting that you completed and submitted the loan application without her knowledge?" My father waved a hand dismissively. It's not like that matters. She's our daughter. We knew she'd be fine with it. But she wasn't aware of the application, the time it was submitted. We were going to tell her. So that's a yes, Mrs. Kowalski said. She glanced toward the door. My mother followed her gaze, and something in her expression shifted. Panic, maybe, or the first dawning realization that this wasn't going how she'd planned. Maya, please, she said, turning back to me. Please, we can fix this. We'll pay it back. Just tell them you don't want to press charges. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. You're our daughter. You can't do this to us. I thought about all the times I'd heard those words. You're our daughter, always used as a cudgel, never as a comfort. I already did, I said softly. That's when Mrs. Kowalski did something I'll remember for the rest of my life. She turned to her computer monitor, a large, flat screen positioned at an angle, and slowly, deliberately, rotated it on its base so that it faced my parents instead of her. The movement was smooth, almost ceremonial. My parents looked at the screen. The number displayed there, my account balance, read, $1,247,690.34. My mother made a sound like she'd been punched. My father went very pale, then very red. What? My mother whispered. That's not you don't have. That's Ms. Chen's current balance with this institution, Mrs. Kowalski said, her voice carrying just the faintest edge of satisfaction. Of course, this doesn't reflect her complete financial portfolio, just what she maintains with us. My mother's eyes snapped to me, and the look on her face cycled through disbelief, shock, and then something ugly and raw. You've had this the whole time. Her voice was shaking. While we were struggling, while we were asking you for help and you gave us those scraps asterisk, you had asterisk millions. You weren't struggling, I said. You were spending on Ethan's businesses, on a boat, on a kitchen remodel. I gave you $90,000, that wasn't scraps. That money should be asterisk or asterisk, my father exploded. We're your parents, you wouldn't be here without us. That money is mine, I said. I earned it and you tried to steal it. My mother was crying now, but they weren't sad tears. They were furious tears, the tears of someone who's just realized they've lost. You selfish, ungrateful, how asterisk dare you? I gave asterisk birth to you. I sacrificed asterisk everything. Mrs. and Mr. Chen, a new voice said from the doorway. We all turned. Detective Morris stepped into the room, her badge now visible on a lanyard around her neck. My parents' faces went slack with shock. I'm Detective Sarah Morris with Seattle PD. I've been listening to this conversation, and I need to inform you that based on your own admissions, I'm moving forward with this investigation. You've both admitted to opening a loan and a credit card in your daughter's name without her authorization. That constitutes identity theft under RCW 935020, which is a Class C felony. My mother's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. My father found his voice. You can't, this is entrapment. This is not entrapment, Detective Morris said calmly. You agreed to this meeting voluntarily. You made admissions voluntarily. No one coerced you. She pulled out a small notepad. You're not under arrest at this time, but I am formally notifying you that this case has been referred to the King County Prosecutor's Office. You should expect to be contacted by them within the next 2 weeks. I strongly suggest you retain legal counsel. Maya, my mother turned to me, her mascara running, her carefully constructed appearance falling apart. Maya, please, don't let them do this. You can stop this. Just tell them you don't want to press charges. Please asterisk. I looked at her, really looked at her, and tried to find the mother I'd wanted her to be. The one who would have been proud of me for my success, not resentful. The one who would have celebrated my accomplishments instead of seeing them as a resource to exploit. The one who would have loved me for who I was, not what I could give. She'd never existed. No, I said. Maya. I said no. My mother's face transformed. The pleading fell away, and what was left was pure venom. I will never forgive you for this, she hissed. You are dead to me. Do you hear me? You are not my daughter anymore. I don't have a daughter. The words should have hurt. Maybe a part of me expected them to hurt. Instead, I felt something loosen in my chest, something that had been wound tight for 32 years. Good, I said quietly. Then we finally agree on something. I stood up. Rachel stood with me. We're done here, Rachel said to Mrs. Kowalski. Thank you for your assistance. Mrs. Kowalski nodded. Ms. Chen, I'll have the fraud paperwork processed by end of week. The account will be removed from your credit file within 30 days. And again, I apologize that this loan was approved in the first place. We failed you there. Thank you, I said. I walked toward the door. I had to pass my parents to get there. My father didn't look at me. My mother did, her eyes full of hate. I met her gaze one last time. Then I walked out. The next 2 weeks felt like existing in a strange liminal space, like I was watching my life happen from behind glass. Rachel called me 3 days after the meeting to tell me that Pacific Trust and Capital Financial had both received the police report and fraud affidavits. Both accounts would be closed and removed from my credit report. My parents were now solely liable for the full amounts, $34,000 for the loan, $12,183 for the credit card, plus fees, plus interest. They're going to have a very hard time paying that back, Rachel said, especially with legal fees on top of it. That's not my problem, I said and meant it. A week after the meeting, Detective Morris called. The King County Prosecutor's Office has decided to move forward with charges. 2 counts of identity theft in the 2nd degree. Your parents will be arraigned next month. Just wanted to keep you informed. What happens now? I asked. They'll be formally charged. They can plead guilty or go to trial. Given the evidence, my guess is their lawyer will push for a plea deal. First offense, family circumstances, they'll probably get probation, restitution, and a felony on their record. But that's up to the prosecutor and the judge. A felony. My parents would have felony records. I waited for the guilt to hit. It didn't. Thank you for letting me know, I said. The family fracture was immediate and absolute. Ethan sent one final email, a vicious screed calling me every name he could think of, telling me I'd destroyed the family, that I was dead to all of them, that I'd regret this for the rest of my life. I read it once, forwarded it to Rachel with a note about possible harassment, then blocked his email and every social media account I could find. My extended family went mostly silent. A few people, Aunt Caroline, Uncle Jim, some cousins I barely knew, sent final messages ranging from disappointed to outright cruel. I blocked them all. But there were 2 surprises. My cousin Jessica, the one I'd been close to as a kid before family dynamics pulled us apart, sent me a private message. Maya, I don't know if you'll even see this, but I wanted you to know that I'm so sorry this happened to you. I always thought they treated you like a bank instead of a daughter, and what they did is unforgivable. You deserve so much better. I understand if you want nothing to do with any of us, but if you ever want to grab coffee, I'm here. No judgment, just I'm sorry, and I'm proud of you for protecting yourself. I cried when I read that, not sad tears, relief tears. I wrote back, coffee sounds good, thank you. The other surprise was my Uncle Mark, my father's younger brother, who called and left a voicemail. Maya, it's Uncle Mark. I heard what happened. I want you to know that I think you did the right thing. Your parents have always had a sense of entitlement, especially when it came to you. I'm sorry I didn't say something sooner. I'm sorry I let them treat you that way. If you want to talk, I'm here. And if you don't, I understand that too. But I want you to know you're not the villain in this story. You never were. I saved that voicemail. 2 people. Out of an entire extended family, 2 people saw the truth. It was more than I'd expected. It was enough. My credit score rebounded within 6 weeks. The fraudulent accounts vanished from my report like they'd never existed. My score climbed back up to 830, then 835. I moved my money back into its diversified accounts, Vanguard, Fidelity, the Money Market Fund, high-yield savings. I kept my Pacific Trust account open with a modest balance. Mrs. Kowalski had earned my loyalty. I changed my phone number and made it unlisted. I updated all my security settings. I put fraud alerts on everything. I went to therapy twice a week for a month, then once a week after that. Dr. Rauso and I worked through the grief, because it was grief, even though they were still alive. I was grieving the parents I'd needed and never had. I was grieving the family I'd wanted. I was grieving the version of myself who'd believed that if she just gave enough, sacrificed enough, she'd finally be worthy of love. You were always worthy, Dr. Rauso told me. You just had people in your life who benefited from you not knowing that. Slowly, carefully, I started to believe her. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my apartment on a Saturday morning, drinking coffee and watching the spring light turn everything gold. A lot has changed. My parents took a plea deal in February, 2 years probation, full restitution for both the loan and the credit card, and a felony conviction on both their records. They'll be paying off that debt for years. I heard all this secondhand through Rachel. They haven't tried to contact me, and I'm grateful for that. Ethan sends occasional nasty messages from burner accounts. I report and block each one. Eventually, he'll give up. Or he won't. Either way, he's not my problem anymore. The extended family has mostly moved on. Some of them still think I'm the villain. I've made my peace with that. The people who matter, Jessica, Uncle Mark, a handful of others who reached out quietly to say they understood, are the ones I've kept in my life. I've started dating again. His name is David. He's a product manager at a different tech company, and when I told him the story of what happened with my parents, he didn't tell me I should forgive them or that family is everything. He said, "I'm sorry they hurt you. You deserve better." And then he asked how he could support me. It was the first time I dated someone who saw boundaries as healthy instead of cruel. I bought a second property, a condo in Tacoma that I'm renting out. My net worth crossed $3 million last month. And I started volunteering. There's a nonprofit in Seattle that teaches financial literacy to young women, particularly first-generation college students and women from low-income backgrounds. I teach a workshop twice a month on credit, debt, investing, and most importantly, saying no to people who try to exploit you financially. I tell them about credit freezes and fraud alerts. I tell them to read everything they sign. I tell them that no is a complete sentence. I don't tell them my story. It's too specific, too raw, but I think they can sense that I'm teaching from experience. After one workshop, a young woman came up to me. She couldn't have been older than 22, and she looked exhausted. "My mom keeps asking me to take out student loans so I can give her the money," she said quietly. "She says I owe her because she raised me. I don't know what to do." I looked at her and saw myself at her age, already learning to make myself small, already being taught that love required self-destruction. "You don't owe her that," I said. "You don't owe anyone access to your credit or your future. I know it feels impossible to say no, but you're allowed to protect yourself. You're allowed to have boundaries. That's not selfish. That's survival." Her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. I gave her my email and told her to reach out if she needed resources or just someone to talk to. Driving home that night, I cried, but they were good tears, healing tears. I couldn't save my younger self, but maybe I could help save someone else's. I've learned a lot in the past 6 months. Lessons I wish I'd learned earlier, but lessons I'm grateful to know now. Your worth is not your utility. Asterisk, for so long, I believed that love meant sacrifice, that my value came from what I could give to other people. I learned that real love, healthy love, doesn't require you to destroy yourself. It doesn't demand endless sacrifice. It doesn't weaponize guilt. The people who love you want you to thrive, not just to serve. Document everything. This is practical advice, but it's also emotional protection. When people gaslight you, when they tell you you're remembering wrong or being dramatic, documentation is power. Screenshots, bank records, emails, text messages, they tell the truth when everyone around you is lying. If I hadn't kept records, the legal case would have been so much harder. Paper trails are power. No is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your boundaries. You don't owe them a justification or a debate. You're allowed to say no to things that hurt you, drain you, or violate your sense of self. You're allowed to say no even to family, especially to family if they're the ones hurting you. No, I can't do that. No, that doesn't work for me. No, that's enough. It has to be enough. Consequences are not cruelty. This one was the hardest for me to internalize. I felt like I was destroying my family by pressing charges. But I wasn't destroying anything. They destroyed it when they committed fraud. I was just refusing to pretend it didn't happen. Letting people face the natural consequences of their actions isn't vindictive. It's just reality. And sometimes, reality is the only teacher that works. Grieve what never was. I spent so much energy trying to turn my parents into the people I needed them to be. I kept thinking, if I just give enough, they'll finally see me. They'll finally love me the right way. But they were never going to be those people. And I had to grieve that. I had to mourn the parents I needed and accept the parents I actually had, and then decide I didn't have to keep them in my life. You can grieve people who are still alive. You can grieve relationships that never were what you needed them to be. That grief is real and it's valid. You deserve better. This is the simplest lesson and the hardest one to believe. I spent 3 decades believing that I had to earn love through sacrifice, that my needs didn't matter as much as other people's wants. Learning that I deserved better, that I deserved respect, reciprocity, safety, boundaries, felt like learning a new language. I'm still learning it, but I'm getting better every day. I still have hard days. Days when I wonder if I did the right thing. Days when I miss the fantasy of a loving family, even though the reality was never that. Days when I feel guilty or sad or angry all over again. But those days are getting fewer. Most days now, I feel something I've never really felt before: peace. I wake up in my apartment, my space that I earned, that no one can take from me, and I don't feel that constant low-level dread of the next ask, the next emergency, the next guilt trip. I check my bank accounts and don't see unexplained withdrawals or fraudulent charges. I look at my phone and don't see manipulative messages from people who see me as a resource instead of a person. I'm building a life on my own terms. A life with boundaries and reciprocity and actual love, not the conditional, transactional thing my family called love. I'm building a chosen family, friends who celebrate my success instead of resenting it, a partner who respects my boundaries, mentors and mentees who see me as a whole person. I'm building myself back into someone who knows her worth. It took 32 years and a felony fraud case to get here. But I made it. And if you're listening to this and you're in a similar situation, if you're the family ATM, the designated savior, the one everyone takes from but no one protects, I want you to know, I see you. I know how hard it is. I know the guilt is crushing. I know everyone is telling you that family is everything, that you should forgive, that you're being selfish or cruel. But you're not. You're allowed to protect yourself. You're allowed to have boundaries. You're allowed to say no, even to people you love, even to family. You don't owe anyone access to your life, your money, your peace, or your future just because you share DNA. You deserve better. Don't forget that. I'd love to know, have you ever had to set a hard boundary with family? How did you find the courage? What happened? Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from. I read every single one, and your stories help me feel less alone in mine. And if this story resonated with you, if it helped you feel seen or gave you the courage to protect yourself, hit that subscribe button. Click the notification bell. And if you really want to help, click that little hype icon. It tells YouTube to show this video to more people who might need to hear it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for witnessing this story. You deserve better. I hope you believe that. And if you don't yet, I hope someday you will. Because I finally do.